What up, everybody? It's your boy Truthit, and I gotta say, this is the first video that I've done in over 2 years. Not the first video, the first Truthit video. I used to do these videos where I would talk about the Bible. They'd be a little humorous, and I'd do these little things, and I'd always go to the Bible. And it's been 2 years since I'd done them. Well, guess what? We're back in the house, and I'm doing a Truthit video right now. And what way to come back to do an episode of Truthit than by to talk about the Sermon on the Mount. If someone would ask me, yo Truthit, what's your best sermon ever told? I'd say first you need a speech therapist. Second, I'd say the Sermon on the Mount, of course. First, the Sermon on the Mount was more than likely done on a hill, not a mountain. And Jesus performed the Sermon on the Mount in front of the multitude that was following him. It's also amazing because it's the biggest teaching from Jesus in the entire Bible. In the entire Bible, there's not form, when you look in the Bible and you see the red, which is Jesus talking, there's not no larger body of Jesus talking than on the Sermon of the Mount. It's amazing. The Sermon on the Mount is the greatest sermon ever. It's so great that people do their sermons on the Sermon of the Mount. And it ain't just one sermon that they do on the Sermon of the Mount. They do sermons. They do a series of sermons on the Sermon on the Mount. The best part of the Sermon on the Mount is just about the kingdom. No, not the kingdom, not Game of Thrones kingdom. But I'm talking about the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God. That's the kingdom that Jesus is talking about in the Sermon on the Mount. You think of the greatest kingdom you can ever imagine, the most beautiful kingdom, the most wonderful kingdom you can ever imagine, and the kingdom of heaven that Jesus is talking about and the kingdom of God that Jesus is talking about is 8 gajillion times better than that. And he talked about the kingdom in the Sermon on the Mount a lot. Throughout the entire sermon, he mentions the kingdom. Let's go to the Bible. Matthew 5 verse 3, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5 verse 10, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5 19 through 20, least is the kingdom of heaven, but whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 6:10, your kingdom come. Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God. Matthew 7:21, not everyone will enter the kingdom. If I could describe the Sermon on the Mount in one sentence, it would be tools to keep you in and tools to keep you out the kingdom of heaven. I'd love to hear what some of your favorite verses in the Sermon on the Mount. If there's any section of the Sermon on the Mount that you like the most, if there's any verse in the Sermon on the Mount that you like the most, that you like to read or that speaks to you the most, I'd love to hear in the comments below what your favorite part of the Sermon on the Mount is. I mean, because he talked about so much. The subjects he talked about in the Sermon on the Mount were the Beatitudes, the salt and light, the fulfillment of the law, murder, adultery, divorce, oaths, an eye for an eye, love your enemies, giving to the needy, prayer, fasting, treasures in heaven, not to worry, judging others, ask, seek, knock, the narrow and wide gates, true and false prophets, true and false disciples, and the wise and foolish builders, all the things that he talked about in the Sermon on the Mount. No matter what subject you can think of, he probably covered it in the Sermon on the Mount. Well, this is your boy Truthit. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, could you please hit that thumbs up in the video in the section below. Please smash that thumbs up. It makes me happy. It does a lot for Truthit in the AM, and it does a lot for Truthit, your boy. And I'm gonna start making these videos more often, I promise. Thanks for watching. It's your boy Truthit. God bless, and I holla.